It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell, coming to you from our makeshift studio today. The New Arts and Media Studios are making a move. So if I sound a little different, I'm in a temporary studio while we make the move. Doesn't have the usual acoustic baffling, another accoutrement. So we're in the midst of that move. It's going to take us another couple of weeks to do it all. A little inside information here. I'm one of the millions of people who work from home. And this predates the virus. My studio has always been a part of my living quarters as well. And so everything's moving. Not only just the studio, but everything in my life is moving. So wish me luck on that. I'm kind of excited about it. Downsizing. I've always considered myself a minimalist, and I preach minimalism, but I've lived in a house that's too big for me for quite a while. When I first took the house, I had some grown kids with me. My daughter lived with me for a couple of years, and then my son and his girlfriend lived with me for a while, and now they're all off and on their own and safely doing well. And I got to get out of this big old house. It's too much. And again, I always considered myself a minimalist and was kind of shocked and embarrassed to discover how much I've accumulated over the years, as anybody with a house, I guess, will do. I don't know. A lot of audio cables, and it's not really comfort stuff. It's mostly work stuff and books and paperwork. And I did start collecting vinyl again. And I don't have much. It's a very small collection. But I did, after many years, start accumulating record albums again, so there's that. So we're prepping for the move over here. And I'm staying in the neighborhood. I'll still be in River West, the greatest neighborhood in the world. But I'm moving to a spot where I'm the only white guy. All of my neighbors are black. And I've rediscovered something. Black folks talk to each other. It's really quite wonderful. Black neighbors will talk to you. Much, much more than white neighbors will. I've lived in lots of different places. I've lived in the suburbs. I've lived in the heart of downtown cities. I've lived on the edge of cities. I've lived in little towns. And I've had friendly neighbors, and I've had neighbors who won't even say boo to you. But I really, of all the situations I've been in, I think my favorite situation is being the only white guy, because black folks really do just talk to each other. It's great just striking up a conversation with a complete stranger, just sharing an elevator, just passing by. All of a sudden, there's a conversation happening. It's fantastic. Yeah, since it's right in the neighborhood, I've been doing a lot of small moving. Every day I take 1 or 2 little car trips. And that way, when I hire the guys, which I've done, to do the big furniture move, then that's very easy and short, and it costs me less. All right, I'm going to try to take it a little easy on you today, because the last 2 days have been very dense. I got to say, I'm going to take it easy on you, and I'm going to take it easy on me. I've tried to make the argument that America is not divided. No. Everybody wants to tell you we're a 50-50 nation. And I tried to make the case that, no, that's not true. That's just simply not true. 20% of the U.S. population voted for the Orange Menace. The rest either voted for Joe or didn't vote at all. And poll after poll after poll on the major issues of the day show that Americans largely agree. And you might not believe this just from me telling you, go look it up. Americans agree with Bernie Sanders and AOC. Look at the polls. They agree on the issues alone. When you take out all the labels, take out the politics, take out the spin, take out the fear-mongering, take out the we're socialists, we're capitalists, take out all that ridiculous game playing. Just ask people about the issues themselves. Do you think health care is a right? Is it a human right? Should Social Security be protected? Should people who work make a living wage? All of the major issues that the progressives are working on all of these questions, a majority, sometimes a very large majority, agree with the progressives. So I've tried to make that case, and I'm going to try to drum that into our heads, just like every talking head that you see on your TV box is trying to convince you that we're a 50-50 nation. It has become what I despise more than anything, common sense. Hey, there is no such thing as common sense. That's another one of my lifetime missions, to destroy that idea, that concept, that there is such a thing as common sense. So we spent the full half hour a couple days ago talking about that. If you want to hear it again, we're going to replay it on moving day. I'm going to take a couple of days while we move the studio and play a couple of repeats. So I recommend that you listen if you missed it, or listen again, because I said it was very dense. So that show from a couple days ago, we spent the whole half hour trying to convince you that we're not a divided nation. We're going to replay that on Friday, November 20th. That's my official moving day. So we're going to repost it. We're going to put it back on the top of the queue for those of you who subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening on air, and as always, thank you to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. We're going to air that program on the 20th. So I recommend it. And then on Monday, the 23rd, we're going to replay that other dense show from yesterday, where I give my prescription to the Democrats and why they need to embrace the left and not do their usual little one step forward, two step back dance with the Republicans. Because that's only gotten us from Reagan to Trump in a blink of an eye. And we can't keep going down that road. So no. Get along, no. Compromise, no. Go full left. Don't apologize for it. Just go full left. Be straight with the American people. Tell them why it's the best course of action. And if you lose, you lose, but I don't think you will. I think you're going to win. My big point yesterday was that good policy is good politics. Don't separate the two. Good policy is good politics. So those two shows are going to repeat on the 20th, Friday, and then Monday the 23rd. So be listening for that. But today and going forward for the foreseeable future, I'm going to try to take it a little easier on myself and not get into these dense arguments. Take dense however you like. And and I noticed the last couple of days we haven't been laughing hardly at all. We got to get some laughter back into the show. My goodness. Laughter's a very healthy thing. Oh, speaking of this, the country is half and half. Another example of that yesterday. Marco Rubio. This guy gets the Lindsey Graham Award as the sycophantiest guy in Congress. Next to Mr. Sycophancy himself, Lindsey Graham. He's so sycophancy. Marco Rubio, in referencing the various legal maneuvers of the Orange Menace, was making the argument, we have to exhaust every legal remedy because half the nation will not accept Joe Biden as president. Half the nation. That's what he said. And why? Because now everyone is accepting that as true when it's not true. That's becoming the common wisdom. Marco Rubio, half the country. No. 80% of Americans believe, because it's true, that Biden won the presidency. 80%, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll, 80% of Americans, including more than half of Republicans, recognize President-elect Joe Biden as the winner of the November 3rd election after most media organizations called the race for the Democrat based on his leads in critical battleground states, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. 80%. That's just what I've been saying. Yet another example of 80% of Americans agreeing on something. And then politicians ignore that fact for their own purposes, and corporate media ignores it because having a 50-50 fight is more fun. It gets more clicks. It gets more eyeballs. So there's just another example. I'll give you another one that kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. Mitch McConnell, in a clip that's been shared on every program 100 times, the president is 100% within his rights to fight for every vote and to not concede. No, 100% within his rights. That's the expression, that the president is 100% within his rights. No. There are legal rights. There are moral rights. There are ethical rights. There are lots of rights that make up 100% of someone's rights. The only right the Orange Menace has to pursue all these cases, these bogus cases in court, the only right he has is a tiny little technical right. Yes, technically, he has the right not to concede. Technically, he has the right to file these lawsuits. And in some cases, he doesn't even have that, because most of them have been found to be frivolous. They just toss them out. Judges are just tossing them out. We talked about, I forget when we talked about this. I'd love to see a kind of court reform that creates at least a disincentive, if not harsh penalties, for frivolous lawsuits. And if you heard this show, we talked about this before. Back in the 80s, 90s, it became a big thing on the Republican side that they wanted judicial reform because they were in this big battle against personal injury lawyers, folks like that. In other words, they wanted to make it harder for regular individual citizens to access the courts. So when it came down to the right-left divide, this was a right-leaning issue. But I've made the argument that the courts are now used routinely in the way the Orange Menace is using it now. Yes, technically you have the right, but every single bill or initiative taken by a Democratic legislature or governor will immediately be challenged by their Republican counterparts. So a perfect example of that would be Governor Evers in Wisconsin, who every time he tried to do something about the coronavirus would be challenged immediately in court by the Wisconsin State Legislature. The Supreme Court of the United States just heard arguments this week about the Affordable Care Act. Every single law passed by the Democrats is challenged in court by Republicans. Republicans also have this little game of passing legislation that they know damn well is against the law. They know it's unconstitutional, with the very purpose of getting them into the courts and trying to win there. So I really would love to find, and I've heard no one talking about this, but I wish somebody would come up with a way to disincentivize this abuse of the courts. And that's what the Orange Menace is doing right now. He's abusing that technical right. So when Mitch McConnell says he's 100%, no, he's not 100% within his rights. That's exactly wrong. He's a tiny fraction of a little technical right that he's exploiting. Any other notion of rights, which includes ethical rights and moral rights, his responsibility as a president, as a U.S. citizen, as just a decent person, no. Hey, before we get too far away from the previous conversation regarding being nice to the losers, I do want to clarify one quick thing. First of all, no, I'm not going to make nice with the abusers. Many people have been making this analogy, comparison, to the way the Orange Menace and the deplorables have been the abusers in this relationship for the last 4 years. And especially people who understand the dynamics of an abusive relationship, how the abuser gaslights, how the abuser is guilty of actual, real, physical, psychological harm to their victim. And so it is kind of this perfect metaphor. It's this perfect analogy that we're in right now. People are asking us just to forgive and forget. No, it's too big a lift. And it's inappropriate to ask or expect the victim of abuse to just make nice with their abuser. So that's absolutely true. Now, the part I want to clarify, I don't really have too much interest, although it's tempting, to treat them the way they've been treating us. In other words, I don't want to be constantly calling them names. I don't want to take pleasure in their perceived pain. Because that is part of their dynamic, right? How they openly take great delight in the tears of liberals. Oh, liberal tears. Nothing tastes better than liberal tears. I don't want to turn around and do that. I've seen some of that. I've seen some of it from the winners in this last election. A little what's good for the goose is good for the gander kind of posts. One yesterday I saw, I like to fill my bong with conservative tears or something like that. I personally don't want to do that. I don't recommend doing that. I understand the temptation to do that. But as far as being nice to the other side, I do want to be nice to them in this respect. I want to try to convince them that the policy initiatives we favor, the ones I keep talking about, free public college tuition, student debt forgiveness, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, all of it, the whole progressive agenda. I want you, deplorables, I want you to benefit from all of this as well. It's not in my agenda to aim policies at you to hurt you. The world we want benefits you as much as it benefits anyone else. It benefits everyone. So to the extent I want to be nice to the deplorables, yes, I want to be nice to the deplorables. Not in a little friendly, let's all forget what just happened for 4 years. Let's forget all the abuse. Let's make happy memes. No. In the larger sense, in the greater sense of the world we want to create. It includes you. So I want to make that clear. I want to make that clear. I got to say, it's kind of nice there's an understatement. It's heavenly to not have to talk about the Orange Menace every minute of every show. Now, you'll have to tell me, because my news consumption is largely, I check the AP regularly. I check Reuters, the basic news services. I watch PBS NewsHour every day. I listen to NPR, the morning and afternoon shows. Here and Now, they play that in the noon hour or so. I never miss Democracy Now! So I get a lot of news, but I don't get any. I get zero cable news. So you'll have to tell me how they're handling this. I don't know what MSNBC is doing or what CNN is doing. But I know in my media consumption, the Orange Menace dominance is over. And I'm really happy about that. And it's certainly the case here on The Log. We don't have to talk about him every minute of every day. It's great. Now, he's still making some news, and he still poses a danger. And I'm just guessing now, but you can tell me, all right? You tell me. Here's my guess. Not having seen any of the cable coverage, I'll bet they're still talking about him 24/7. I'll bet they're absolutely obsessed with his firing the Pentagon leadership. And then because of that firing, another half of them resign out of protest. So he's completely retooled Pentagon leadership with his little lackeys and weirdos from Fox News. And people are afraid that now he's going to use these lackeys in the Pentagon to do something crazy before he goes. Now, is that all true? And is that something we should worry about? Yeah, I think we should keep an eye on that. Only time will tell if my lack of concern will be justified. I guess, yeah, we should keep an eye on that. He really has. He's gone full carny. He's just gone full carny now. He is 100% grifter at this point. His duties as president are just completely off the table. That's just done. He has no interest in being president. His only interest now is using the power he has as president to just squeeze every last little grift he can. So, yeah, I don't know what he's doing at the Pentagon. Maybe he is going to try some last little crazy move. The part we know about for sure is that he's obsessed with pretending he didn't lose. He's obsessed with keeping all the deplorables in the clubhouse. Much has been made of the fundraising that he's doing off of all these court cases, this court battle. Apparently, they're doing an awful lot of fundraising off of this. And I'm sure you've heard this. It's been all over the news. In the fine print, it says, oh, well, only a percentage of this goes to the actual court expenses. The rest of it goes into our general slush fund. So he's just literally just making money hand over fist. He gets up every day, looks at the situation, says, okay, how can I make some money off of this? And that's pretty much what it is. It's to pay off campaign debts, and it's so he can buy another golden toilet for Mar-a-Lago. He's gone just full carny. I said all along, I've said forever, is that he would never concede, because he legally doesn't have to concede. The process goes on, whether he does or not. Concession is just something you do. It's one of those norms, one of those traditions that are long gone now. So he's never, ever going to do that. I would bet everything I own in this world that he will not be at the inauguration. Can you imagine him at the inauguration? Which, by the way, we got another countdown going. We were counting down to the election. Now we're counting down to inauguration. 69 days. 69 days. There's no way in hell he's going to be at the inauguration. That's just impossible. Well, we need to talk about the virus a little bit today. The problem is, I don't know what to say without repeating myself, but the lack of concern just has me baffled. We are setting records day by day by day. This thing is surging out of control in state after state after state. Here in Wisconsin, Governor Evers got on the TV box a couple nights ago, and the governor of this state, I don't know about other states. Every state legislature and governor have a little different relationship politically, legally. But here in Wisconsin, because of gerrymandering, we talked about this the other day too, the majority of voters in this state are Democratic. And yet the Republicans have a 2-to-1 majority in the legislature because of gerrymandering. So they have all the power. The governor of this state has been stripped of any real meaningful power. So in the early stages of the virus, when things really started to hit the fan, Governor Evers here in Wisconsin ordered bars and restaurants to close. He issued a safer at home order. Basically, get in your houses. We got to stop the spread. Essential travel only, essential work only. And the legislature took him to court, and damned if they didn't win. They beat him. They said, nope, that's our job. We have to do that. And he said, okay, well then do it. But they didn't, and they still haven't. So he gets on TV the other night and says, look, man, this is getting really, really bad. We're starting to fill up beds out at State Fair Park, at the supplemental care unit. ICUs are filling up. Capacity of the healthcare system is starting to get really strained. We're back to the old stories from April where PPE is running out. And people are dying. My God, they're dying every day at record clips here in my state and probably in yours. So he addresses the state with everyone knowing he has no authority to order anything, but he just gets on to plead with us. Stay home. Go out for essentials only. The spread is out of control. Nothing. Not even hardly a headline. The local television stations, they went from covering that address from the governor right back to their regular programming, filled with commercials for local bars and restaurants. Come on out. We're open, Milwaukee. It's all about the messaging. Every message you hear is about continuing to live life, to go out, to do things, to buy things. We're just screwed, I guess. I don't know why I continue to waste my breath on this. How do we convince you? How do I convince you? How does Governor Evers convince you? How does President-elect Joe Biden convince us to stay the hell in our houses? Bars and restaurants are still open across this country. The single most dangerous place you can be. The deplorables are still running around without masks. It's insane. This is crazy. It turns out, surprise, surprise, that the Orange Menace and his little election night party at the White House with several hundred people unmasked for hours and hours. They were there, I guess, from late afternoon until the wee hours of the morning. So obviously we all knew, and it's now turned out to be true because we're a week out from that. Yeah, another super spreader event, just like the Amy Coney Barrett reception at the White House. So now they've had 2 super spreaders. Oh, that's the other thing about living with black folks. They wear masks. Not wearing a mask is a white thing. It's totally a white thing. I have not seen one of my new neighbors without a mask. Not one. Come on, white people. A majority of white folks still voted for the Orange Menace in 2020. We're going to have to get back it's going to be really interesting to look back at the numbers. It takes quite a while. Every a couple weeks out, then a month, and then 6 months, then a year out. We're really getting the numbers, and the researchers are really doing the analysis, and that's always kind of fun to see who voted for who and why. But we know some preliminary raw numbers, and damned if the Orange Menace still didn't get a majority of white votes. I'm happy to be the only white guy in my new surroundings. So I'm going to sit down and do some meditating on this. Maybe I'll do some free writing. Try to get my creative juices flowing because we've got to find a way. Somebody has to find a way to get folks to listen. This virus is nasty and deadly, and it loves to move around. But it cannot move by itself. It's got to jump on one of us to do the traveling. And if we all wear our masks, and if we all social distance, and if we all go out only for the most essential needs, we can beat this thing, but that's the only way we beat it. I'll try to come up with something better, because that message isn't getting through. I will work overtime to try to come up with a better message. The Orange Menace is supposed to be such a great marketer, right? That's all he's about, is marketing, slogans. Get on this one, would you? As your parting shot, Orange Menace, could you? Wheesh. Man. All right. That's the log for today. And just a little reminder, if you're not a current subscriber and you want to look for us on your favorite podcast platform, you want to search for the name Charles Bursell. That's how it's listed. Because we have some other programs under that umbrella as well. So don't search for the log. Search for Charles Bursell or Charles Bursell Presents. And boom, boom, boom. There we go. All right. I love you. Talk to you tomorrow.